All right, we ready? And grab your bag and go. That's it. Move, move. Go, 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 go. One, Armani suits and run.
Manager to cash register.
All
Manager to
right.
cash register.
All right. Week three, Armani. Um, 6-4 on the season, another 3-2 week. Open up the season with back-to-back pars. Um, I think the headline though is, I mean, we're like 3 plays from being 9-1. I mean, we had another just miserable kind of late backdoor cover this week. And I think, did I see correct? Like nobody's undefeated. Are there no perfect entries?
Yeah, I think 9-1 was the tied for the
Nine and
lead.
one's the best, right? But you go back to week one, the Seahawks giving up that late touchdown. All they had to do was go for it on that fourth and super short. Could have run out the clock, kicked the field goal, won it. Ravens blowing that lead. And then last week we had Jaguars plus 3.5. Burrow goes out with the toe injury. Feel like we kind of have it the whole game. And then Jaguars are up three late. Bengals go down the field and they punch it in with what, like 10 seconds left, and kick the extra point, go up four, cover the spread, which is just miserable. So,
Yep.
feel 6-4, but 3 games too. We were right there and a play away from getting those wins. So overall, it feels like we've had some pretty good reads on the board. Um, so just to recap the picks, I was on the Jags plus 3.5, lost that. So I dropped to 0-2 on my best bets. Kieran, you were on the Browns plus 11.5. They were in it for a bit, and then Ravens just kind of pulled away. Didn't get
Yeah,
the cover there, so you dropped.
they were always like one possession away from making it really good. Like they were kind of sitting like right around that number the whole time, and it was always like, all right, who's going to
Yeah.
score the next touchdown to either, put the spread away for
Yep.
the Ravens or, the Browns to really tighten it up. And then yeah, all of a sudden it's like you blanked and the Ravens put like three more touchdowns on them and just started to run away with it.
Yeah. Yep. It was trying to find the box score here.
And for what it's worth, because I know that I had talked about how the Browns could be a sneaky playoff team, and I said at worst, I think that they can be, a competitive bad team, and I still think that could happen. But it does feel like after last week, that could be kind of where we start to see the tide start to turn. I mean, they have Harold Phantom playing really well.
Yeah.
Sampson and Judkins looked really good, coming back with basically no training camp. So like those rookies are looking really good. Then Dylan Gabriel comes in, granted it was garbage time, but he came in and he threw a touchdown. So I feel like it could be sooner rather than later that we see them turn it over to the, really try and just invest in these rookies and more so Dylan Gabriel at quarterback at least. Maybe we start to see some Shadur, but I also don't think that necessarily means that as far as the spread goes, they could still be a pretty good spread team, and especially a switch to
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel could actually result in higher spreads earlier on, and that could maybe be like a good
Yep.
spot for them. But yeah, I mean it does feel like maybe the hopes of them being a sneaky team. I mean, we were looking ahead at that schedule. We said they could very easily start 0-4, and then they had a pretty soft stretch in the middle.
Easy
So
stretch. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe that could be
Yep.
something in like a week or two we reevaluate, and it might be worth. I mean, even if it's truly just sprinkling on it, it might still be interesting. You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it was 2010 heading into the fourth quarter, and then we had a Ravens touchdown, and then there was a sack, fumble recovery, 63 yards. That kind of like, in a way, put it away. That made it 34-10. Browns turn it over on downs. Ravens score again, and at that point, game's completely out of reach. But they were right there heading into the fourth quarter, and then just a couple bad breaks. But um, all right, and then so you're 1-1, and then Bowen's on a bit of a heater. Eagles -1 over the Chiefs. That hit 2-0 on best bets, and then Bowen, you were on the right side for both the Sunday night and the Monday night game. So you're 5-1 overall. You and I both had Falcons plus 3.5. That was the winner on Sunday. And then for Monday Night Football, we were both on the Bucks plus 2.5. Great game, great comeback.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, Baker was fantastic. It was a close game the whole way. and needed a little help at the end there. But that was a great finish. We're on the right side of it and picked up another
Sounds
win.
like
So 6-4 overall.
it sounds like the nobody on the Bucks is denying that they let Nick Chubb score um,
Yeah,
at the end, which
yeah,
obviously, I mean, that was the right call because
yeah,
if he gets that
absolutely.
first down, I mean, I'd have to watch the playback. I don't remember the down in the distance, but I mean, if they were just able to hold on to that ball and just run the clock down in field goal range, they could have put it away because I think they were down two at that
Yeah.
point. So they only
Yeah,
needed three to win. So I mean, the fact that did that, and I know that's always been kind of the controversial play, more so for fantasy or for gambling
yeah.
purposes. But I mean, who knows? If Chubb kind of had that in his head, but at the same time, you're scoring to go up by almost a touchdown. You take the field goal out of it with like a minute left. I mean, you're typically feeling pretty good, and then Baker just went crazy on that last drive. I mean, they just seemed to kind of have all those plays. It was like first down after first down.
Well,
And
it
getting
reminds
down
me
there and
too
being able
of.
to run it, like run it in for the game
Mhm.
winner with, the clock expiring. I mean, I think they had a touchdown or a timeout, so they were,
No, they had a
kind of
timeout.
comfortable doing that. But I mean, that it just kind of shows that they were really able to just go down on like, a handful of chunk plays and just make it down there. They really didn't have to work too hard.
Actually, you know what? You know what's wild? So as you were talking about that of like whether or not Chubb could have just gone down, it reminded me of, I don't know if you guys remember from a couple years ago. It was like 2 or 3 years ago now. That Jets miracle comeback against the Browns. Where the Browns were up. What was it? They went up 30-17
Mhm.
with like 2 minutes left, and then Jets hit a deep ball. Flacco was actually the QB. Hits a 66 yarder to Corey Davis. Um, Makes it a 6 point game. And then they recover the onside kick and then take it down. Garrett Wilson catches a 15 yarder. And because the Browns had missed an extra point earlier, they kick the extra point, take a 1 point lead. And then the Browns, with like 20 seconds left, threw a pick to end it, but blew it. And I remember part of the issue with that game was the Browns actually could have run out the clock, but they chose to run in the touchdown, which then gave the Jets the opportunity to get the ball back, which, opened up that opportunity. Guess who ran in that touchdown in that game? It
I'm assuming
was
it's
Nick
Chubb.
Chubb. It was Chubb. Hasn't learned.
Selfish.
Yeah. Interesting. Both Chubb and Flacco were playing in that game.
Yep.
Um, all right. So, 6-4, we head to week 3. Let's see if we can put a birdie on the card this week. Should we
That
get
would be
into it?
big.
Yeah, let me send it over to the wheel.
All right.
All right.
All right. I told Bowen it's a square pick, but I'm going with it. It's just it is what it is. I'm taking the Cowboys over the Bears. Cowboys -1 over the Bears. Um, I think just talent-wise, too much. They've got, I think they're going to come in with a lot of momentum just with the way they won that game against the Giants. Obviously, Aubrey kicking that deep field goal, but it's like they escaped with a win, but that could be something that really really propels them. Something that they can build off. Meanwhile, you got Chicago that just they're coming off getting absolutely smoked um by Detroit. And another loss, they're going to be 0-3. I think, from a morale standpoint, they got to feel like they're in a tough spot. Dak does well against bad teams. He's 39-12 straight up, and given it's only a 1 point spread, kind of looking at this, straight up kind of plays well here. But 39-12 straight up, 77% versus teams, under 500, wins those games by 10 points. Um, so, I just again feel like there's too much talent here. I feel like the Cowboys are the better football team. And given they're only laying one, I like them handle the Bears.
I uh I like to pick. You talked about the Bears, kind of the state that they're in now. I know it was announced, I think before last Sunday's game, but they're like all pro cornerback Jalen Johnson's out for the year, I believe. We're out long term. Um, you know, for a defense that desperately needs a guy like that to have him go out early in the season like this is got to be absolutely backbreaking. And couldn't come at a worse time than facing the Lions and the Cowboys back to back when you're playing, the wide receiver corps like these two teams have. So, you saw Pickens come on last week with the Cowboys. He was really starting to find his own. CD's, top three, four receiver in the league at any given point. Javonte Williams has been running the fuck out of the ball, and they seem to really like him, and he's been working out for them. And you don't really hear any of those, chirps about the Cowboys not having a run game anymore. They seem to have, their offense is, all systems go. So I think the Bears are still trying to figure out who they are on offense, and defensively, I think they're a mess. So yeah, I like the pick. Square or not, it's a good pick.
Yeah, I think this is like a pretty appropriate spread. I feel like this is, I mean, it has the makings of being a really high scoring game. Feels like it could definitely be a
Yeah.
whoever has the ball last wins the game type deal. I honestly, I was kind of leaning the Bears, but I realized that was more of like a gut check than it was really anything else. Like when I was looking at the rest of the card, there were more games that I felt more confident in the side in. It was more just. I kind of liked how it looked for the Bears. I just think that if they are going to have some sort of breakout, this would be a good spot. But, kind of to what Bowen was saying too, there is still sort of a feeling out process. I think the offense is actually starting to look all right. I do think that defense is a little bit of an issue, but you could say the same thing about Dallas as well. I just thought, they're a little weak against the slot. I think all receivers are going to eat in this game, but they are a little weak in the slot. That's where Chicago's been doing a lot of their attacking. They're just kind of working Dunze Moore and Zacchaeus into the slot, and that's kind of where all of them are getting, a lot of their work done. But on top of that, they've been, a little loose against quarterback rushing. So, like I said, if there was a get right spot for the Bears, this would be a good opportunity for them. But at the same time, there is still a little bit of a feeling out process where they just might not be very good right now. So like I said, that was more of a gut check than anything. It wasn't really a confident pick that I had. Didn't make my card. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think this is very much a coin flip. I like the number here on the spread. I think that Vegas might have nailed that one.
All right.
And by that, I just mean I think it'll be like a one score game. I don't think it'll be a
Yeah.
right.
2 point win or anything. I think it'll, like I said, it'll more just be whoever has the ball last. But
Yeah. Yeah.
let me get to my notes. There we go. I'm taking a confirm that number. Taking the Jags -1.5. I just like this matchup for them. I think that this is a good spot for them to kind of start to click a little bit more on offense. I think it's just one of those things where people are starting to point out the numbers. Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter, they're like the lowest receiving players on their team. It's like three, four other guys have more yards than them, all that type of stuff. This is a good matchup against the Houston defense. They're pretty bad against wide receiver ones. I think this is a good spot, especially with the talk about Brian Thomas Jr. going over the middle, kind of shying away from hits. I just feel like all the narratives kind of starting to shift that way, and then you look at the matchup on paper, and kind of like what I was saying for Chicago, if there is a spot for them to get right, this is certainly it. I mean, the running backs they can eat. I think that both ETN and Tootin can kind of get things done as a tandem. They've actually been pretty weak, Houston, against both running back ones and twos. We saw what Bucky Irving and Rashad White were able to do last week. Especially I think Liam Cohen's probably watching his old team how they played against Houston, taking some notes from there, trying to figure out how he can use it, but. like I said, it's a good matchup for a wide receiver one like Brian Thomas Jr. I'm looking for, whoever's playing in the slot to score touchdowns. That happens to be Travis Hunter. They've been playing him in the slot a lot. So I think this is just a good matchup for the big names, for the pillars on that offense to step up, start putting some numbers up, and kind of water to find its level, above the or kind of reaching the expectation above where they've been performing. And I just don't like the matchup as much for Houston against the Jags. I think, maybe Nico Collins can kind of do what he does, but beyond that, Houston doesn't really seem to have much going. I mean, I had Xavier Hutchinson in my parlays last week, and he was able to hit those, but he hit his 25-yard prop and he had like 28 yards. Like it's not like these guys are going out and stepping up and putting up 60 yards to support Nico Collins, anything like that. And then, the run game, Nick Chubb didn't have much going until he was pretty much gifted that touchdown, whether that's confirmed or not. So, I think basically a coin flip here on the spread. I like the Jags to, maybe start to settle in with that offense and then maybe have things start to connect a little bit more.
I like the pick. I think I was just reading too. Looks like the Jags, they've covered the last three against the Texans. And then Trevor Lawrence has covered the spread in three straight home games. So a couple good stats there, just in terms of trends. Um, I mean, I this Jaguars team, like, I know they blew it last week against Cincy, and did it against a backup QB, but that Cincy offense is still, I mean, they're just loaded with weapons everywhere. It's like, um, I feel like one of us could probably throw a couple touchdowns with those weapons. Um, so, it's a good team. They got a ton of talent across the board. Houston still seems to be struggling to kind of find their way, and I think Jags have maybe found it a little bit more. So, given it's a point and a half, like the pick.
Yeah, I mean, just a few things on the Jags. Trayvon Walker, their edge player, he's really been coming on. He's been getting after the quarterback, and Josh Hines Allen or Allen Hines,
Hines
Josh
Allen.
Allen, the other Josh Allen, is also still there. He's still always effective. So I think we've seen with the Texans O line, they're still really trying to figure out what they are with that brand new group, and I didn't see anything on Monday that really changed my thought there. So as far as this goes, I mean, Brian Thomas definitely do, Travis Hunter definitely do. Trevor Lawrence needs to play better. I think he will play better. Liam Cohen's a good coach, good offensive coach. I think he'll have this, have them schemed up and ready to hit on a few plays they haven't hit on to start the season. So yeah, let's pick.
Yeah, and the way I see it too is just, and it's maybe a little bit of trying to call my shot, but watching these teams through the first 2 weeks, it just feels like Houston's kind of given everything they got, and it's not enough, right? Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I think, the Bucks, it seemed like they might have been, somewhat of a rat line, somewhat of a square pick last week, and Houston shows up, almost puts them away, and then they just give up that final drive. And that's one of those where it's like, you know what, you guys just were not meant to win that game. Like you kind
yeah,
of played the exact game that you needed to play, and it still wasn't nearly enough when it was all said and done. Where the Jags, of course, they lost last week, and we thought Burrow going down might be a blessing. Jake Browning did come in; he did throw three interceptions, for what it's
Yeah.
worth, but they still ended up losing it, but that's more of a team that it's like they're not clicking. Like if they were playing that way and Brian Thomas Jr. was putting up 100 yards and two touchdowns and they were still losing, then I'd say, you know what, maybe
hmm
this team just sucks as well. But yeah, it just feels like that's more of a team that's not clicking, where the Texans, maybe they aren't necessarily clicking either, but I just see more of a upward path to get out for the Jags than I do for Houston right now. I think Houston might just be bad. It might be one of those things where it was kind of written in the tea leaves when they overhauled the O line and then they lost Joe Mixon, who was so important to them last year. I just don't really see where they can turn it around unless they make some sort of trade. I just don't think that Stroud and CJ or Stroud and Nico Collins are enough to get it done, especially when Stroud's running a lot. And that was kind of why I was down on Stroud as a prospect, was because once there was pressure on him and he had to get out of the pocket, he was pretty bad at Ohio State. He was just really good from a clean pocket, and Ohio State's really good at setting up those wide open windows for receivers over the middle. And then once you take those away, he was starting to struggle. And yeah, it seems like now that the tape's out on him these last 2 seasons, it's just it's become a lot more of an issue.
All right. Jags -1.5. Back to the wheel.
All right.
I'm going Rams on the road +3.5. Going to Philly. Uh, Start with the Rams. I really like what they've been doing on offense. Obviously, they have been supporting two wide receiver ones in Puka and Devontae. Not that I ever had any question that Sean McVay could make that happen, but seeing it happen in real time, pretty much immediately, with it only being week 1 and 2, having those guys work together, is just deadly. They are, I think, a 30 point, 35 point candidate every week, regardless of matchup. And I don't think the Eagles are any exception. I think there's a bit of a chip on the shoulder thing too. With last year, the Rams came really close to beating the Eagles. Saquon was Superman in that game, ripped off like that 75-yard run. But the Rams definitely had a case there. They were playing a really good game. So I think there's a bit of that as well. Uh, the Rams defense, I think, is good enough to their D line is just full of dogs. I don't think the Eagles will be able to run too much the way they did with the Chiefs last week, and just tush push and run Saquon for 3, 4, 5 yards, tush push and just continue that. I think the Eagles are gonna have to throw the ball to keep this game close. I think the Rams win outright in a big way. So I think we kind of did see with the Eagles in the Thursday night opening night game against the Cowboys, at least in that first half, before that weird weather delay. That Eagles defense is susceptible to being, big gains against. CD was having his way. Um, and they put up, I think, 20 points in that first half against the Eagles. So I think the Rams could do the same, and I think they could put up a lot of points. And we really haven't seen Jalen Hurts. I don't think he doesn't even have a passing touchdown on the year yet. So we haven't seen it from them. They feel a little clunky out the gates. Saquon's not ripping off those 75-yard touchdowns as of yet, and that defense seems to be gettable. So um, all those things, combined, I just like the Rams to win the game. 3.5 is a nice boost, but if it was even a pick 'em, I'd still pick the Rams. So
That was my second pick. So I'm
fuck
all
yeah.
on board. Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at the matchups as well, and of course, it's a small sample size this year, but the Rams, their secondary has been really good. They have not been allowing much through the air at all. It's a solid matchup for Saquon, but like, so what? Like, that's like a strength on a strength, like whatever. They're always going to play that way. I like the Rams to get revenge. I mean, I was kind of leaning the Chiefs last week going into it, but the Chiefs, kind of like what I was saying about the Texans, like sometimes teams just don't have the horses, and with
Yeah, they really
out
don't.
and with Worthy out, like the Chiefs just really didn't have enough,
Yeah.
and it was still they only lost by 3. I mean, going in in that fourth quarter, they still very much had a chance to win it. It was very close, but I think the Rams do have the horses. So I think, especially at that 3.5, kind of like what you were saying, Zach, I do like them as an outright candidate. I also kind of like that, there's tape going around. The refs sent out tape saying, hey, the Eagles should have been called for a false start on this tush push, yada, yada, yada. I do think that the tush push is going to be under the microscope a little bit more moving forward. I think that we are going to start moving towards probably not a ban, and I really don't see a point in banning it. I think that's just stupid. Like, I just don't really think you can do that. But I do think the way that it's going to be officiated now, people have been starting to notice. You got guys lining up in the neutral zone. You got guys false starting, jumping the snap on the offensive side. I do think that it might get nerfed a little bit. and maybe they'll kind of shy away from that, maybe try and do something else. But there could be a little bit of an adjustment period, and we still haven't seen the Eagles throw. Maybe they come out and it's like unbelievable because they do have two great wide receivers that they just don't want to use, I guess. But yeah, I like the matchup for the Rams, and I like that they're getting the points. So, give me that revenge.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they start officiating that tush push more closely and like
Mhm.
because I mean all of a sudden you can go from 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1 to 3rd and goal from the 6.
Yeah.
If they call them for a false start and at the risk of not doing that, they may then I mean they still got Saquon back there, so it's not like they're hurting. But just it changes the dynamic of things. I didn't have that like this game didn't make my final card, but I was looking at the Rams side pretty closely. If I was picking a side, it was going to be the Rams. For all the points you guys just said, but I think, really, really good team. Bowen, I think you said it, but that Eagles secondary is susceptible. Gave up a bomb to Thornton last week. And the Rams have weapons. They're loaded on offense, so they got a lot of guys they can throw it to. They can be dynamic. And I think they can get some pressure too on and move Hurts around that pocket. So I like the pick,
And
especially with the
like
hook.
knock on wood, but it's like I just have a hard time seeing the Eagles blowing them out. Like
Oh yeah.
this
Yeah.
just feels like, it could be a back and forth game, but I really like the Rams upside. I could see them
Yeah.
getting up for this game, and I think Stafford's just been kind of slinging it. Even if I haven't actually checked his stats, but I've seen enough of his highlights from this year where it's like he's still making those throws. I've seen some graphs where it's like he's still efficient at like a pretty elite level. So yeah, I mean I like this Rams team. I don't
I
know.
also think this could be a spot where the Eagles' new offensive coordinator, I don't even know his name, but I think this could be a spot where we notice Kellen Moore being gone. I think that could be a spot where it's like, oh wow, the Eagles actually aren't, coming with that same energy that they were last year, where they kind of just get stuck in the mud and just can't run the ball, or the game script doesn't allow them just to run the ball 85% of the time and throw one ball to Devonta Smith down the field to ice the game or whatever, to go
And
ahead of
even that deep
whatever that
ball is
throw
like
was.
a
Like,
brutal throw.
right. Like, I think there's a chance that we are just kind of sitting there like, oh, wow, this Eagles team is looking, a little differently than they were with Kellen Moore. Just,
Mhm.
there's always a chance of that. And McVay will always have his guys ready. So,
Yeah, and I saw a graph. It was like, or not a graph, a chart. It was Devontae Smith's route chart, and it's a very niche sample size that they're pulling from. But they were looking at his week two route chart from the last three seasons. So that would be 23, 24, and then this year 25. But in 23, when it was that guy Brian Johnson calling the plays for them, it was a very basic route chart. He was really not doing much. Last year with Kellen
Mhm.
Moore at OC, to what you were saying, Zach, he was like all over the place. He was running all types of depths, all types of ins and outs, and then going deep and doing all type of stuff. And then this year, week two, last week, he was kind of back to what he was doing in 2023. So it does seem like they are maybe lacking some of the creativity in the pass game without Kellen Moore. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. But and for what it's worth, he was still he averaged 66 yards per game in 2023, which is slightly more than what he averaged last year. So it's not like he was awful when Brian Johnson or whatever his name was the OC in 23. But I think a guy like Devontae Smith, and you see it with AJ Brown too, where it's like they're not really doing much creatively to get them open, and it just they
right.
have two
Mhm.
really good wide receivers, and I understand that that's a big reason why their run game is so effective because you have to give those guys attention, but it's like they really
Yeah.
are like the most expensive decoys that you could possibly have. It's like how do you have those two guys? They can play outside, they can play inside, and you're just like not doing everything you can to get them the ball. It kind of does drive me nuts, especially as a fantasy owner, but. Yeah, I think right now McVay. I like this Rams team. I think this could be an interesting team. Come playoff time.
Yeah.
oh, big time.
Yep.
Especially,
Yeah.
it looks like the Cardinals. They're just unserious. The Niners. They're going through it right now. Who knows what the Seahawks are? They're playing some tough football, but we'll see how that develops. But this could
Yeah.
just be like the Rams division like pretty easily.
Yeah, because I've what 49ers and Cardinals are both 2-0, but they feel very fraudulent.
Yeah, well, the Cardinals, like they do that. Kyler Murray's done that like 5 times in his career.
Yeah.
Start off undefeated and
Yeah.
then end up at 500.
Yep.
Yeah. Word.
Sunday night,
Yeah.
so Chiefs at Giants. Giants
6.
+6 at home.
Plus 6. I don't know.
All right.
No. My screen was a little jumpy over here. I didn't realize it was me. Um, I'm taking the Chiefs here over the Giants. Andy Reid 9-3 against the spread in week 3, 16-7-1 in weeks 3 and 4. 0-2. It's adjustment time. I think I could definitely see. I don't know if it's an overreaction spot for both teams, but that Giants defense was porous. I mean, obviously they were involved in a thriller against the Cowboys last week, almost won it. They got all these weapons on offense, but I mean that defense stinks. And I think the Chiefs, like Tyquan Thornton last week emerging as a deep threat. I like they can't. I still think there's something in there with them. I do still think at some point we're going to see something from them. And, it feels like this is a really good spot for them to just kind of get right. Um, you know, they they got a few more weeks until they're going to get, Rashee Rice back. And, I think they obviously got to win a couple football games. I mean, you look up at the rest of the division. I mean, the Chargers are 2-0. You've already lost to them once. Like you can't afford another bad performance here. And yeah, I'm not convinced with that performance last week from the Giants. I mean, I think it was a shootout. So I like the Chiefs here. I think they're going to cover. I think this is a spot where you could look and say 6.5 is too much, but I think it's a good bounce back adjustment spot for them, and I think they cover on Sunday night.
All right. All right.
Uh, going Giants at home, home dogs. I just don't. I'm a worthy guy. I'm an Xavier worthy guy, and I don't think that him being back in whatever capacity he's going to be back in is going to boost that offense enough to at least cover that number. I think they could win. Definitely, probably, more likely than not, won't start 0-3. But I just think it could be you know, uh, not as I guess a statement win as you would maybe suspect from a Chiefs team in prime time. I think they could maybe just snake by. Russ definitely has a connection with Malik Neighbors. They seem to really be connecting. And if the Giants do connect on a few of those deep balls and can maybe flip the game script and not let Pat Mahomes scramble around and dick around and dictate the game, I think things could get a little scary for the Chiefs. Quick. So I think with what we saw last week with the Giants, just being able to put points on the board. Um, I just like them to stay within that number.
All right.
All right, Kiernan.
All right. I'm on the home dogs as well. I like the Giants.
Never a
Um,
doubt.
I like the offensive matchup here. I could definitely see us getting screwed and then, Kansas City winning by exactly a touchdown, exactly 7 points. That definitely would not shock me, but I kind of like how things are going. I mean, Kansas City, they've been pretty good with Spagnuolo as their defensive coordinator. It's kind of always been a point of emphasis to target that wide receiver one and take him out. So I like looking at, the last couple of years in terms of props. I've liked looking at wide receiver twos, wide receiver threes going against the Chiefs, especially guys that are, maybe, low on the lower end of the scale when it comes to props. But Wan'Dale Robinson, he's playing really well, this year. Russell Wilson, he had a huge game last week. Wandale did. Russell Wilson's talking about how he reminds him of Tyler Lockett, which, I mean, if you're, a Wandale Robinson guy, that's probably music to your ears. But, just looking back, so Philly ran the ball 60% of the time last week, so you can't really take much from the passing game there. We know how that went. They had 100 yards. But when you go back to week one, and of course, it's a really high caliber offense with the Chargers, and now Justin Herbert's been throwing it, and especially that wide receiver trio that they have. But you had Lad McConkey put up like 70 yards against them out of the slot or playing a lot out of the slot. You had Keenan Allen playing a lot out of the slot. He scored a touchdown. He put up 50, 60 yards, things like that. So I think this is a good spot for Wandale to kind of build off of what he was doing last week. I'd also look at Darius Slayton. I had him on the house call sheet plus 380. I kind of like him. He might only have one or two opportunities, but I would not be surprised to see a Russ Moonball go his way. And him kind of make his presence felt this season. He hasn't really done much throughout the first 2 weeks, but I like those guys a little bit further down the depth chart. Maybe that ends up being Jalen Hyatt instead of Darius Slayton. We'll see, but I think that they can attack them downfield. I think that they can work with Wandale out of the slot, and having Malik Neighbors take some pressure off of those guys as well can maybe open up a few more opportunities, a little bit more space for them to attack. Just when it comes to the Chiefs offense, I think that they're going to probably run the ball a lot. The Giants are a man-heavy team. The Chiefs, when they've been running a lot in those man looks, Mahomes has not been throwing it a bunch. He's trying to pick apart like the zone, have Travis Kelce. That's kind of where he excels. And the Hollywood Brown's been kind of doing the same as well. So I think even if the Giant or if the Chiefs are playing like a game-winning script, I think they might be running a lot. So I think they might be running the clock. I think with a larger spread, closer to a touchdown, I think that just means it'll maybe be a little bit of a closer game. So I think the Giants will at least always be within striking distance. It'll just be on them whether or not they're going to connect on some of these touchdowns or be able to put points on the board. So, in that scenario, I'm taking the home team that's getting almost a touchdown.
All right, Giants are the pick.
Down, hold on. All right. I was hoping I would go first here. Is there something I want to propose? Let me just pull up my bookmarks. I want to read something to you guys. So last year, right, we had the Man Campbell pick of the week. I'm not saying we have to just run that back, right? We should maybe let things come to us naturally. I don't know where you guys are at on this game. We can get to that in a second. But before you guys make your picks, I think you guys should know. The Lions are playing the Ravens during a waxing crescent moon. They are 9-1 on
Wow.
these moons in the last two seasons. We're Man Campbell guys. We picked them in every primetime spot they played in last year. They're playing under a waxing crescent moon where they won 9 of 10 games under that moon in the last 2 years. I also just like the matchup for them in general. I think that they could be throwing a lot of touchdowns. I like Jameson Williams to score a touchdown. I think Amon-Ra could get on the board. He's always a threat, even coming off of that 3 touchdown game. I think all the pass catchers can score touchdowns for them. I really like this matchup. I think this is the Man Campbell written in the stars pick of the week. Uh, I'll pass it off to you guys and let you decide, but that's where I'm at.
It's the Man Campbell written in the waxing crescent moon pick of the week. The I I mean I think you got to go where you got to go with the numbers, I mean the numbers speak for themselves.
I
Um
think a waxing crescent outweighs a Costanza, right? I mean, Costanza's not. I mean, We're talking about the waxing crescent. I
Well,
mean,
that's
come
why
on.
I'm
Yeah.
glad, and I almost feel like that was the universe speaking to it because I feel like I had to go first there so that I could propose that stat, let you guys know before anything was decided. I was hoping I would either go first or last, and if I was going last, maybe we were facing a sweep, so that it would be nice and easy to sell that as well. But yeah, I just
Yeah.
figured, when we're talking about the Cosmos, I tend to not go against that stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that was on your radar. We can go back to the wheel though. I don't know if you guys want to just discuss it or if we want to just play it out.
Can you edit the wheel and just put one slot as Man Campbell pick of the week, crescent wax moon, whatever it is.
Actually, I'll just put Man Camel because you can't even see the rest of the stuff. All right. Tristan.
Uh, well, I am on the Lions plus 4.5 over the Ravens. Um, Detroit 16-4 against the spread under Man Campbell after winning by 11. Um, I actually, and they could score in the way that you were just talking about, where all the receivers could. I am very much on the Jamison Williams touchdown this week as well, but maybe for different reasons, because I actually think we're going to see a lot of running from Detroit. Both Buffalo, or both Ravens opponents have seen success in the run game. I mean, even last week, if you go and look at the box score, like you know, multiple Browns backs, were able to run the ball before they started to pull away. Obviously, saw James Cook have some success in week one. You've got David Montgomery, you've got Jahmyr Gibbs. I think they can use that run game to control the ball, control the clock. And instead of like getting into just an absolute shootout where both teams are sprinting down the field and just scoring one after the other, and it comes down to who's got the ball last, I think they can try and use that to their advantage, which, I think at some point in that football game is going to open up that play action pass. And, Goff's going to be able to hit Williams streaking down the field, down the seam, for a deep ball for a touchdown. But, I think they can kind of go to that, smashing run game, control the clock, wear that Ravens defense down, and then, come the fourth quarter, still a close game. They can use that to their advantage. And I think getting 4.5, I do think they can win this game outright. So getting 4.5, I feel really good about here. So I'm on the Ravens plus four, or the Lions plus 4.5.
All right. Well, Bowen texted us. He said that Lila woke up, uh, and that Lions plus four was his pick, or I guess plus four and a half. Um, so I mean, I think we just roll with that. I know that that's typically a Costanza, but that's why I wanted to lead it off with with the moon stat. And if we want to start running back, I'm not saying we have to just implement the Man Campbell rule, but I think when you're facing something when it comes to the moon, the phases of the moon, I think that kind of overrides everything. So, I mean, if we're
Yeah.
all on board with it and we just want to ride with our guy, then we can just. I do think that overrules the Costanza.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have to go with the power of the universe here and the waxing crescent moon. So I'm good with it.
All right.
All right. I will get the picks in, but we have got Cowboys -1. That's my pick. Jaguars -1.5. That's Kieran's pick. Rams plus 3.5 is Bowen. Giants +6 at home on Sunday night against the Chiefs. That's Kieran and Bowen. And then we are going with the waxing crescent moon. Lions plus 4.5 on Monday against the Ravens. Those are the picks.
All right.
All right. Shout out Lila B.
Yeah.
See you next week.
I'll
So
see you.
5-0. All right, later.
Peace.